One of the issues I think a lot of people run into is we're literally addicted to our victimhood. We're addicted to our um, sense of self-loathing. We're addicted to all the things that they're projected into that chocolate cake or into the gin and tonic or whatever. But it's really that we have an identity as a victim that we're finding some kind of um, purpose to hold on to. Why do you? Why did we do that? Why are we
Well,
self-punishing machines?
that's the part of us that believes in separation. That's what brought us here. So Jesus talks about this, that this three-dimensional world that we live in is one of the lower realms of consciousness. We think it's all there is because you can't see up high, you can't see to higher levels of consciousness. You can only see to lower levels of consciousness. So we think we're the be all and end all. Um, but that's what I see from the fundamental course teaching is it's that desire to come into separation, to leave oneness. Why would you do that? You must have some crazy reason to do that. I don't have a conscious recollection of why I did it. That's we've got this amnesia. None of us know why we chose to come here, really. But if you look at it that way, oh, I've chosen separation. This isn't God didn't do this to me. Jesus didn't do this to me. I did this to me. Then there has to be a big part of your consciousness that doesn't believe in love. And a lot of people over the years have said to me, why in heck would I choose to come here? This is a crazy place. And the answer is, well, how many times in a day do you keep judging? How many times in a day do you keep making someone else guilty? How many times in a day do you have a hateful thought about yourself or someone else? That's what's keeping it going. It's not that you chose it once, it's that you keep choosing it. So I would challenge anyone who's listening to go, okay, I'm going to write down today all the things I judge today. All of my fears, all of my hatreds, all of my worries. I'm going to write them all down. And I bet you will have a list of hundreds of things. That's the ongoing choice that we're making. And this is what Jesus is telling us in the Course. If you stop doing that, then you will get to leave here. And that's not through death, that's through ascension or enlightenment, however you want to word it. But we're choosing it all the time. And I remember when I first started the Course, I was in fictitious battles in my head with people all the time. And I'd never realized that because the way separation works is you look at the projection, which is the world. The world is separation in action, projection in action. So we seem to be the innocent ones, and the world is the guilty place. It's where the wars are, it's where the bad politicians are, the drug dealers, the prostitutes, they're all out there, right? They're all out there. And so the world is the distraction that we have created for ourselves so that we don't look inside. And no one wants to look inside. It feels like, initially, it feels like a waste of time. Initially, it feels like a discipline we don't have. You'll often hear people go, I can't meditate. I'm thinking too much, or they can't sit still for a minute, right? But the solution is inside. And when I first went inside, I couldn't believe it was a war zone in my head. It was a war zone, and my life outside was a war zone. Not in bullets and guns, but in fractured relationships and broken relationships. And so that's why we do it, because we like to do it. We like to judge people. We love hating. I bet you right now and I keep bringing up because I think it's, believe it or not, I do think this whole Trump thing is part of the ascension process, because he is so vilified and so many people's ego is being triggered by him that if you can actually catch on to it, it's a fabulous opportunity for ascension, to actually choose the most vilified person on the planet as your forgiveness practice will bring you peace. And everyone who's listening now that hates him will go, I can't do that. And I will go, there it is right there. There it is right there. You say you can't do it and you're not willing to do it. And yet he could actually be the key to your consciousness evolution. And you can see the volatility of the world right now. It's amplifying. It's getting more and more intense because we are being given the opportunity to see the dark and the light. We're being given the opportunity to see the separation in action. I don't think it's the way most people think it is. I think sometimes it's the opposite of what they think it is. But I think the volatility and the intensity of the world right now is literally spirit giving us an opportunity to go inside and go, you know what? This world cannot make me happy. And this is what Jesus teaches us in the course. Do not look to the world to make you happy. It is the ego's playground. And that's what we're seeing in spades right now. But it's also triggering everyone's ego. And I think if you can actually use it the right way, you can get great benefit from it.
From a different perspective, we can sort of trump our school teachers that might have left emotional scars on us.
Mm-hmm.
All these people have actually performed a great service of love to in order to be um, the most vilified person in the world. Um, means that on some level, on a different plane, they took that on and said, "I'll take that."
Well, there's a phrase I use. It's not a course phrase. I don't remember where it came from. But the phrase is this: either God is everything or God is nothing. And I think that's a really great phrase for people to look at. God is everything and everyone, or God is nothing. There is no halfway in a way when you think about it, right? Um, so sorry, I forgot what you said. I forgot what your question was.
Um, talking about how on a on a different plane of a different perspective, how
Oh, the gift of the bad person. Yeah.
yeah, he had to step into that on that highest level and say, okay, if if this is what people need to awaken, if they
Mhm.
need a villain,
Mhm.
I will be the villain.
The trouble with untrained minds, and that's what, well, we have trained minds. It wasn't trained by Jesus, it was trained by Gilligan's Island and the banking system and, our school system and it's been trained. Our mind has been trained. It just wasn't trained correctly. Uh, the trouble is when you have a mind that's been trained incorrectly, it does not understand the consequence of making somebody guilty. It truly doesn't understand that you're condemning yourself to separation and suffering. Once you've evolved a certain degree, and the course helps you do that. Of course, most people who start the course can't do that. They're not forgiving, they're not loving, they're having a hard time with the world, they're having a hard time with relationships, but they've come to the course in hopes of something coming to them. But you're trained over not only the 365 days of the lessons, but you're trained in practicing it then for years and years and years. That you actually learn that when you start cultivating loving thoughts and you step back from judging, at first you can't forgive the people you hate. You just have to stop hating them so much as actively, let's say. So I would say if someone has a resentment, when that person comes in their mind, you just go, no, I'm not going to think about them. I'm going to think about something that makes me happy. You're not forgiving them. You're not saying that you allow them to be whoever they are. You're just going, I'm not going to indulge in hatred. And that's the beginning of a forgiveness practice. And that even is difficult when the ego is in full control. Its survival depends on you remaining separated. Its survival depends on you making others guilty. That's the ego's food, and it is not happy in the beginning. It's not happy in the beginning, and it can even seem to amplify in the beginning when you first do the course. But to see your most hated enemy as your savior is very evolved. It's a very evolved thing that I don't think most people can even get close to. But it is why Jesus said, pray for your enemies. Because when you pray for your enemies, you are not hating them. And that means that you're not going to suffer. So when you pray for your enemies, that's actually for your own benefit. And that's what he means by that, is your enemy is your greatest teacher in that sense.
Therein lies our salvation.
Yeah.
We've mentioned ego several times, and I think even those who've been doing the course for just a little bit can sometimes still wonder about the ego. Is there nothing beneficial about the ego? Because speaking of vilifying, some people think that we're vilifying the ego, when in truth, the ego just isn't anything. It's not a villain. It's not a good guy. It just doesn't truly exist except for a thought construct, a belief system. But could
It's
you
a
give a
very
little?
tricky subject because when my ego was telling me to kill myself when I was 17, it felt very real, right? It had real effects because I was listening to it and I was feeding it. Every time I consumed a magazine, looking at a beautiful woman going, she's beautiful, I look awful compared to her. Look how thin she is. I shouldn't eat any food. That's what my ego was doing with it, right? But your ego is everything you've been taught by everything you've ever experienced. We have to understand that the conditioned mind, which is a big part of the ego's power, is that you've been taught you're powerless, that your government rules the roost. You can't do anything. Well, if you have been taught that and you believe that thought, then you're going to act powerless. And then you're going to experience powerlessness, right?
Mhm.
Because that's how you're acting. If you have that belief, I'm powerless, then you think of how many interactions in a day or ideas you have, or inspirations. If you've been taught that you're powerless, and we teach our children to be powerless by forcing them to do things and disciplining them in certain ways and not allowing that, there's many things that all of us have experienced throughout our conditioning programs. We're not making anyone evil here. We're just saying we have been trained in a million things that are not true, in the sense it's the opposite of what Jesus teaches us, for example, right? Um, but we are powerful creators, and it's our belief. It's our belief in the things that we've been taught that empowers the ego. So, for example, chocolate cake at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm just going to plug my phone in here because I do not want to. I do not want to delete you by accident. Oh no, I've got lots of power. Hang on. I've done that many times, been on live streams and lost power. The reason someone gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning and has another piece of chocolate cake is because it works. When you're eating a piece of chocolate cake, your mind is occupied with the sweetness and the texture and the creaminess and the smell, and you're making a cup of tea to go with it. So for, let's say, 45 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, your mind is completely occupied with eating a piece of cake. In that 45 minutes, you are not suffering with your thoughts, right? You're not suffering with your thoughts. You're in love with the chocolate cake. And this is why people will go back time and time again to something that's physical, because it stops the thought process that is causing their suffering. Same with the gin and tonic on a Friday afternoon. I hate my job. I don't, but let's say I hate my job. I've had a terrible week. I'm all stressed out. I feel powerless. This is what I've been taught. I'm going to have a drink. And when you have that drink, the brain starts to get numbed. The suffering thoughts start to disappear. Man, that drink worked. Man, that piece of chocolate cake worked. That's the ego at work saying, have those things. Short-term gratification is going to bring you relief. It doesn't want you to actually do the long-term program of training your mind so that you don't suffer. So the ego is something we experience if we believe in it, I think. When, as course students, we stop listening to it through the training that we get and start doing other things that are more fulfilling and more loving, let's say, then the ego has less and less influence over us. But as a collective, the ego has a tremendous amount of influence over us because we are all programmed by the same systems, right? Get sick, go to the doctor. That's a program. Over the last few years, some of us have learned that going to the doctor is maybe not going to be that good for you. And so that program is changing. And so we're starting to do different things. When I first started channeling, I started channeling the first year with my guides and teachers who are called Ananda. And they said, you think you have a dozen programs to get rid of. You have thousands. You have thousands of programs. And those programs are conditioning programs. And that is one of the ways that the ego manifests. It's not spirit. It's not guidance that's coming from source or love. It's from a culture that has a very vested interest in you staying separated and having a lot of self-loathing. A lot of money is made from those things.
I think that leads us into probably the most essential part of the course, and the one that we began talking about earlier. The antidote to the ego is forgiveness, because the last thing the ego ever wants to do is forgive. It loses something that it considers valuable if it forgives.
Yeah, and there comes a point as a Course in Miracles student where you get really kind of pissed off at that, because you're like, it's all on me, right? It's me that's doing this to me, and it's me that has to change. And what about all these other stupid people out there? But no, actually, they need to change. If they change, then I would be okay. Yeah, it's a massive shift in consciousness. The